Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the American Brain Coalition's first webinar of our 2025 educational series, Inspiring Tomorrow's Leaders in the Neuro Space. I'm Christine Buckley, Executive Director at the Brain Aneurysm Foundation and Chair of the ABC's Programming, Engagement, and Outreach Committee. This week marks Brain Awareness Week, a global campaign dedicated to fostering public enthusiasm and support for brain science. Excuse me. In celebration of this important week, we are thrilled to bring you today's program, which will explore the future of neuroscience through the inspiring work of young leaders, innovative outreach initiatives, and impactful personal stories. Our goal today is to highlight creative ways people are sparking curiosity about the brain and empowering the next generation of scientists, educators, advocates, and clinicians to lead the way in advancing brain health. We'll have time for audience Q&A at the end of the program, so please submit your questions anytime using the Q&A box on your screen. To kick off today's event, we're honored to hear from Menina Casalino, an advocate and caregiver, whose personal journey will set the stage for why this work is so meaningful. Menina, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Christine. It's really great to be here with everyone and a true honor to be among this really cool group of individuals on today's webinar. So thank you so much for including me. My story begins back in 2022. That is the year that my husband and I got married. We got married in September of that year, and we were in our early 30s at the time. In the best shape of our lives, arguably. And, in that year, just before our wedding, we had decided we were going to pay a little bit more money to get a unique type of physical, provided by a private doctor up in Canada, which is where we are based out of. We went through that physical, and Matt, my husband, got an A++ on his report card. We felt like we were going to have just the best year of health and physical health going into 2023. Fast forward to December 2022, and during a pickup basketball game at our local YMCA, Matt suddenly collapsed. He was able to actually pick up the phone. He gave me a call. I was at home, and he had said, "Something's wrong. I just fainted. Can you come to the gym?" And by the time I had arrived at the gym, which was about 5 minutes after that phone call, the 911 first responders had arrived to the scene. And I saw things that I had never seen before and had absolutely no familiarity with. I later learned that Matt was exhibiting traditional stroke symptoms. So he had difficulty speaking, difficulty lifting his arms. He was confused, vomiting. And at the time, like I said, I just had absolutely no idea what was going on. I had asked one of the paramedics, does he have any idea what is happening right now? And he had said he wasn't sure, but that they were treating Matt as if he had had a stroke, and that we were going to be heading to our local hospital that treats stroke symptoms in downtown Toronto. By the time we arrived to the hospital, Matt had what I would consider kind of come to. He was back to normal, or whatever normal was at that point. We had a quick meeting with the doctor where we were handed a pamphlet of papers that we were asked to sign, basically acknowledging that Matt would undergo a surgery that he might not wake up from, that there was a 50% chance that he would have another stroke during surgery, in which case they weren't sure they were going to be able to do anything for him. And I quickly called my dad to seek some advice. He's not a doctor, by the way, but I needed any advice I could get at that point from anyone. And about 5 minutes later, both Matt and I signed on the dotted line. And a few hours after that, Matt underwent a surgery. For those, I know there's lots of us on the call who are doctors and neuroscience PhDs. So the little knowledge that I had at the time, I wrote down, which I pulled up on my phone, my notes from that day. The ruptured aneurysm that Matt experienced at the gym occurred on his middle cerebral artery on the M3 branch. So Matt, a few hours later, underwent a craniotomy. They clipped his aneurysm. It was about an 8-hour surgery, and we, received a phone call towards the end of the surgery where we learned that Matt might not be able to speak, and we might not be able to communicate with him verbally anymore following his surgery. So it was a very, very confusing time in my life. I had never heard of the word brain aneurysm before. I quickly learned what a brain aneurysm was when I Googled the phrase and came across the Brain Aneurysm Foundation, and that really carried me through sort of the next few months of my learning journey as I tried to kind of pick up the pieces while Matt was recovering. Matt made it home in time for Christmas that year, which was really exciting. We, after 3 to 4 weeks of recovery in the hospital, we were really lucky that he woke up from surgery and just had, at that time, like just an absolutely exceptional recovery and, what the doctors at that time called a miraculous recovery. So we were incredibly grateful. In February of 2023, just a couple of months after being home, Matt was at the gym and came home and said that he thought something wasn't right. He felt a little bit of numbness in his face. And so we called the doctor. We went back to the hospital and we discovered that not in the same location where they had clipped Matt's aneurysm, but along the same artery, it had dissected and he had another brain bleed. So we were told that Matt would go back into surgery again. This time they would perform a bypass and they would use an artery from his temple and bypass it into the location, basically replace what was there. And so that was quite an extensive surgery. It took over 16 hours that Matt was in surgery. And he was placed in a coma, just given the impact of the time in which he was under surgery. About 3 to 4 days after that, Matt slowly came out of a coma, and he unfortunately did have an impact to his speech system at that point. We went through several months after that of essentially relearning how to write and speak. Throughout that whole time, I also learned a lot about how the speech system works. I knew that Matt never really lost the words, but Matt lost the ability to transform those words from like a storage cabinet in his brain into a sentence, and then to be able to speak those sentences in a way that makes sense, in an order that makes sense. And as a result of the impact that the craniotomies had on Matt's brain, he developed epilepsy. So to this day, we both, I think, are on, the way that I would describe it is we continue to be on a learning journey to manage and live with the impact of Matt's strokes as well as the development of his epilepsy. Again, I would say throughout all of the 2 years that we went through in his recovery journey, he is doing exceptionally well. If you meet him, you may not even know that something happened. Of course, we're managing epilepsy, and that is in itself its own journey of learning. I had also never seen someone have a seizure before. So when Matt first had a seizure, I had no idea what to do, and how to treat him in the moment. Um, I am really passionate about this cause, about brain awareness. I think that early detection really does save lives. And I often wonder what may have changed if the physical that we, paid for back in 2022, incorporated elements of the brain and a deeper look at, the way in which our brain is made up. Um, and I think that today, there's just so much work to be done. There's so much left that we don't know. And I think especially for people who are within our age bracket, or, millennials and younger, it's just such an important topic and something that we just don't know enough about. So I'm really passionate about it. I'm really honored to be here with everyone today, and I'm looking forward to learning from everyone on the call as well.
Thank you so much, Menina, for sharing. I know it's not easy, but we appreciate your experience and perspective. And it reminds us why engaging the next generation in brain science is more important than ever. Now I'm excited to introduce our first featured program, one that many of you may not be familiar with, the International Brain Bee. This remarkable competition is designed to inspire students around the world to pursue careers in neuroscience. And we're joined today by Jim Diaz-Granados, board member and past chair of the International Brain Bee and deputy executive director of the American Psychological Association. Jim has also brought along a very special guest, the 2023 International Brain Bee World Champion, who will share a few words with the group here today as well. So Jim, take it away.
Thank you, Christine, and thank you, Menina, for sharing yours and Matt's story. That was very powerful. Let me share my screen for myself. There we go. Okay. So yes, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having us here. Thanks to the American Brain Coalition. The American Psychological Association is actually a member of the ABC as well. And the IBB is a very new member just at the end of last year. We're happy to be a part of the coalition and believe in the mission and vision of the coalition. In terms of the International Brain Bee, as Christine said, the mission of the International Brain Bee is to teach students about the brain and to inspire them to pursue careers in neuroscience or medicine, anything related to brain health. The IBB, I should mention, was founded in 1998 by a professor at the University of Maryland by the name of Norbert Myslinski. And this is his brainchild. He came up with a neuroscience competition for high school students. Think about it as kind of the spelling bee, like we're all aware of the spelling bee, but this is all based on neuroscience. Move to the next. There we go. So it has grown since 1998 when he started it in the US, and then started to have folks compete from around the world, starting with Canada. It has grown to be a global initiative with local and national Brain Bee chapters around the world, almost entirely run by volunteers. We could not do this without just the dedication and passion of our volunteers around the world. And the culmination of the program every year is the annual World Championships. And that's what we organized. That's what we organized at the International Brain Bee. For a long time, it was in person, but I'll talk about in a minute that we obviously, in response to the pandemic, we made some changes in our strategy. In 2018, the IBB was officially incorporated. Dr. Myslinski, for 20 years, just ran it, out of his own shop and really was a one-person show. But in 2018, the organizations on the screen came together and decided to officially incorporate the IBB, and it's now governed by the neuroscience organizations that you see here. And I should say that three members of the American Brain Coalition are here: the APA, the Alzheimer's Association, and Society for Neuroscience. And then we have the Federation of European Neuroscience Societies and the International Brain Research Organization. So, very heavy-hitting organizations in the brain sciences. So we're very much we have a commitment, both financial and resources. The CEOs and executive directors of these organizations are involved and on the board, and are very much committed to the mission of the IBB, because we do feel like it is extraordinarily important. Move to the next one. So IBB, by the numbers a little bit, we currently coordinate with 51 countries, and the list it keeps growing. We added 6 countries last year, actually. We had a record number of countries participate in last year's competition, and which was 37 countries. And the average gender distribution of the participants is pretty equal. And right now, the 26 competitions that we've had, we have to say that females are ahead by 14 female champions to 12 male champions. I think that we, in psychology and neuroscience, we see that we have a lot of participation by females in these areas, and so it certainly is starting to show that in the IBB. But here you see a quick snapshot of some of the countries that have won, and you have the first, second, and third place winners in here. So I will say that you see that 2020 and 2021 are together here. What happened with the pandemic in 2020, we canceled the competition. Like I said before, up until 2020, we would bring the competitors together in person. And so in 2021, we launched a virtual World Championship, and we had parallel competitions for the 2020 national champions and the 2021 national champions. And so we crowned 2 winners, or 2 slates of winners that year. When we saw the results of going virtual, we saw that we had a record number of countries participating, because a lot of the barriers for travel, cost, et cetera, were eliminated. And so we made the decision in 2021 to move the World Championships to virtual only, and that has been a great move for the organization. We're getting, I think that's why we're seeing such a increase in participating countries, because now it's a much more level playing field for folks. And the staff of the IBB have done a tremendous job of coordinating, designing the virtual championships. And I'm sure Chun-Hei, who our 2023 champion, can attest to that when he talks about his experiences. There's just a quick snapshot of the competition. We have a written exam, we have patient diagnosis, neuroanatomy, neurohistology, and then live judging, where the students are asked live questions and participate until they get an answer wrong. Just like the classic spelling bee that everyone knows. We also have, which is we think is one of the really important aspects of the program, is the social program. So cultural exchange. They get keynotes from major neuroscientists. We have a career panel that we host every competition to give the students an idea of what you can do with a degree in neuroscience or careers in neuroscience. And then we have special themes and group activities, really bringing neuroscience to life in terms of how neuroscience interacts with society, neuroethics, and so on. And so we really try to expose them to as much as we can. And then in 2024, we launched what we're calling the IBB Next Gen. So in place of bringing competitors to the IBB World Championships, what we started in 2024 was we take the top 5 finishers and pay for them to come to a major neuroscience organization conference. And here's pictures of the participants, and you see Shunhei there in these pictures. We were in Vienna for the FENS Forum, the Federation of European Neuroscience Societies Forum in Vienna. And that's where we had the inaugural Next Gen event. Here you see the opening ceremonies, and we actually were able to give opening remarks to the opening of the forum, and everyone got to meet the IBB Next Gen participants, and they were celebrities for the rest of the year, for the rest of the week. Right now we're planning our second IBB Next Gen event, and it'll be hosted during the Alzheimer's Association International Conference in Toronto. The participants, again, will be the top 5 champions from our 2024 World Championship, and they are from Australia, Canada, China, US, and Macau. Next year's Next Gen event will again be hosted by FENS, and it'll be in Barcelona, Spain. So we are super excited about about the future of the IBB and the impact that we're hoping to have on the young minds that come through the IBB. And speaking of, I will turn it over to Shunhei, who will now talk a little bit about his Brain Bee journey and his experience at our first Next Gen event in Vienna. And I will pull down these slides.
Yeah. Hi, thank you very much for having me. So I actually participated in the Brain Bee 2 times. The first time was so it's a multi-level competition. You have the local competition, and then you have in some countries a national level competition, and then up to the international competition. The international competition is also broken into the preliminary round and also the finals round. And I did the locals round twice and got into the international round in the second time, and I absolutely loved the experience. The IBB is a very comprehensive test of knowledge in neuroscience, I believe. And it's also pretty well known, I think, for biology students, at least in Hong Kong, because the IBB was very well promoted by our national coordinator, Dr. Michael Lee. So I personally find the IBB Next Gen event to be very inspiring. I'm very privileged to meet lots of top leading neuroscientists in the world and learn about their research work. Because, as students, it's not often that we pay close attention to current scientific literature. And the IBB Next Gen event really exposed us to, research that's happening right now, so to give you kind of a glimpse of the landscape of neuroscience right now. And it was also a great experience to meet other participants who share the same interests and hobbies. I got to make lots of friends. And I would say that the IBB has also shaped how I think about the future a lot as well. So initially, I got into neuroscience because I was very interested in studying human consciousness and systems neuroscience. And well, after joining the IBB, I realized that there's so much that we don't know, that this is a question that is right now a bit out of hand. And even, maybe some simpler biological questions we still do not have the answer to. Maybe a 3-year-old can ask a question in neuroscience and nobody has an answer to that. And I realized that there is a lot more fundamental biology that we have to do, and also a lot more tools that we have to develop and advance. And that's why I am currently doing a bioengineering degree here at Stanford. And I'm currently working on developing programmable antigen controlled G protein coupled receptors to provide more molecular tools for proximity labeling and molecular tagging and etc. to advance biotechnology and hopefully in the future address problems in neuroscience and neuropsychiatric diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, and so on. So I'm very indebted and grateful to the IBB for organizing this competition, and has definitely shaped my future a lot. Thank you very much.
And congratulations again to Chun-Hei on such an impressive achievement. And next, we're going to hear from the dynamic team behind Northwest Noggin, a program that's become famous for its hands-on, community-based neuroscience outreach. Please welcome Dr. Bill Greiser, Mr. Jeff Lake, and Katie Ray Smith. Bill and team, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm sorry, I'm sort of a mess here, but it'll clear up in a second. Okay, here we go. Play from start. Can you guys all see that? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So these are just some images from all of the outreach that we do on a regular basis. We're very honored to be here, by the way, today. And Menina, that was an incredible story that started us off. And pretty extraordinary, work clearly being done around the world by the Brain Bee. But we engage community through both neuroscience research and also art. So a huge part of what we do is we make things, and Jeff will talk about this in just a minute. I just wanted to show you a couple of images here. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit, so nobody here is paid. We literally just do this because we love neuroscience, and we love stories, and we love art, and we love going places. So for the last 13 years, since 2012, we've been visiting schools all across the Pacific Northwest, all public schools. We go places that have no admission charges and no tuition charges. And our mission is really to try to learn from the community, what people already know about brains. Like, for example, Menina's extraordinary story is an entry into understanding what's going on with the vascular system in the brain and how an aneurysm, might result. So we've met literally just by going places, just as volunteers, with about 75,000 public K-12 students and also community members. We have local, national, and international collaborators at this point. We've been, to schools in Chile. We've been to schools, in the UK. We've been like places all over the place. So we like to go places. So this is just a map that shows you a little bit of where we go, for example, in the Pacific Northwest. We're based in Portland, Oregon, but we take students, undergrads from Portland State University, and also graduate students from Oregon Health and Science University, and local artists, et cetera. We go to lots of rural communities like throughout the Pacific Northwest. So we've been to places with populations as small as 4,000, right? Or populations as small as 40 at Missouri Meadows, where there's a Native American summer camp that we were invited to talk about like how, past trauma can actually impact our biology and impact how people develop and experience, their world even generations later. So we've gone to, youth correctional facilities, for example. We've gone to houseless youth nonprofits where we talk to youth about, some of the experiences that they're having. And again, the stories that they tell us can inform the research that our graduate students are pursuing, and also that our undergraduates are interested in pursuing and learning about in the classroom. So for example, when we talk to houseless youth, we learn how dangerous it is to be sleeping outside on the street, and how that leads many youth to actually, start using, psychostimulant drugs like methamphetamine. And, that's actually to preserve their own survival in these very challenging sorts of circumstances. So this is just like when we go places, it's beautiful. Like the Pacific Northwest, by the way, if you ever get an opportunity, you should come out here. It's just stunning. And this is, something I think Katie Ray mentioned too, but whenever we go to a Society for Neuroscience conference, we bring lots of undergraduates. We actually scrabble around to like come up with the resources to get everybody over there. And then we visit local public schools while we're at that conference. And we have had, folks from the NIH come join us. We've had folks from ABC come join us in public schools, and it is a blast. We make lots of, brain cells out of pipe cleaners, and we hear what questions that youth have, what they actually want to know about. And so listening is a huge part of what we want to kind of emphasize here. Like we've heard from many people that when you go places as an expert panel, for example, that turns a lot of people off. They're like, okay, don't I know something too? I mean, it helps a lot more to actually invite in the lived experiences and relevant knowledge, of other people. We were just, for example, visiting the British International School in the Gaza Strip, which has been destroyed by bombing, from Israel. However, the kids joined us actually, via satellite uplink and cell phone, and we talked about, for example, what they see in a neuron, like what the early Europeans named these parts based upon what they looked like, right? Like a branch, and they had learned Greek, in school, so they called it a dendrite. But these kids saw fingers, and they saw snake skin, and they used functional terms like it was listening, it was like an ear. That was kind of powerful, I thought. We get questions like, being tested for a lot of kids in public schools, and a lot of the kids that we'd like to invite, to participate in pursuing neuroscience. That's something they're not very, they don't like. They've had terrible experiences with it. It immediately turns them off. But they can talk about that experience, and then we can talk about like why would that have that kind of an impact on your experience, and they find very powerful kinds of inclusion from that kind of an experience. Like their questions are valid and valuable. So we like to share stories, empower new voices, broaden the conversation, make public investment and research relevant, invite new participants' perspectives, and also brains. And Jeff, I'm going to have you talk briefly about art. Go for it.
Right. So, like Bill was saying, one of the really kind of unique things about what we do is that when we began this program in, 2012, we started it as an art and neuroscience outreach program. So we learn about our brain and our world through making. And we knew from the beginning that this gave us a way to really discuss a lot of the concepts that we're discussing, the things that we're talking about with our students in a really engaging way that allows us all to kind of explore the content rather than just go through it as a kind of rote sort of thing. And but I think the longer we do this, what we've really found is that the kind of most significant impact of this approach is that it allows us to kind of communicate our ideas with each other, and really to tell, when we have students make something like those neurons that those kids in Gaza were making, that it allows us to sort of express something of ourselves to each other. And that is the most critical aspect of this sort of art integrated approach to me. Yeah.
So Katie Ray, do you want to take control of the screen, or do you want me to just put something up here?
You can put up whatever you like, Bill. Hi, I'm Katie Ray. I'm an undergraduate student at PSU, and I'm studying neuroscience. largely with Bill and Jeff as mentors. We also have a lot of amazing scientists who work with us from OHSU and Legacy Emmanuel, who also help out with Northwest Noggin. A lot of what I do, I run the interdisciplinary neuroscience student group at the school. So a lot of what I do is recruit students from all different colleges across PSU and to learn about the brain. And a lot of them like it and stick around and come and teach with us at Northwest Noggin, going into schools and youth shelters. Yeah, I'm a non-traditional student. I got long haul COVID and also ended up resulting in sporadic daily seizures, and decided that I should go to school and figure out what's going on with brains. So a lot of what I study is in my undergraduate thesis is mental health management within the neurodivergent population. We've got a lot of questions about that at schools, especially the schools that we go to, which don't often have a lot of resources. And yeah, so a lot of what we do is just ask kids what they want to know and give them answers to the best of our abilities, and then point out the things that we still are learning about that we still want to know. So you can see a lot of the pictures that Bill is showing here is us at schools. There's a picture of the human interface where you can have energy exchange between one person and another person. We do a lot of tactile things. And I work on making art projects. I just made a little stuffed neuron, having tactile things when we go to schools, and having tactile things that people can learn from, that are visual aids and that they can participate in making. It's very useful for learning, as you all know. But yeah.
So I just wanted to, we can sort of summarize here a little bit. If you wanted to check out like some of what we've been up to, what Katie Ray's been doing, you know, what all our volunteers have been doing, all the things that we've been making, and you want to make them maybe yourself too. If you go to our website, you'll see we've been trying to also see where neuroscience actually relates to better policy changes. You know, we worked with schools to, you know, move the start time for schools, you know, for high schools, you know, up at least an hour till it's around 8:40 or 9 o'clock because of changes in circadian cycles that we know about from neuroscience research. We have students who are really interested in like sort of meditation and the brain, right? And they do some, you know, work with kids in schools. They're interested in ADHD in the brain. They're, you know, one of the things that's fascinating we found is that there are so many like kind of shared interests in the research that is funded, you know, by the NIH in terms of, you know, how our brains function and how we develop. And that's something that the general public is very interested in learning more about. Whenever you go there, people are utterly excited and thrilled. You know, we've had experiences where we've had scientists, for example, tell us they're afraid to go to certain parts, you know, certain rural areas. They don't think they're going to be received well. That is not true. I mean, the stuff that they do is absolutely fascinating. And if you actually go places to listen and to, you know, kind of share where your stories intersect with what people are curious about and already know, that's very powerful. So if you want to see our collaborators are listed here. We have, you know, a blog where we have our students write about their outreach experiences, their experiences in research labs, our experiences in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. We have more information about what we do when we're at, you know, rural community schools. We do free public talks. We do Society for Neuroscience visits. And also, if you want to make like a pipe cleaner neuron of your own or a found object brain cell, all of these are public domain, you know, Creative Commons. Anybody can use them. There are loads of resources that we put together just, you know, kind of as volunteers. Thank you, by the way.
Excellent. Thank you so much to the Northwest Noggin team for all the incredible work you're doing to make neuroscience accessible, creative, and fun for so many students. Our final speaker today leads an organization that's connecting young minds to neuroscience opportunities around the globe. Please join me in welcoming Patrick Wozniak, Board President of Simply Neuroscience. Patrick, here's to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the introduction. And Bill and team, that was super fun. So thanks so much for sharing that. Let me go ahead and pull up some quick slides here. Make sure we can see everything. So again, So excited to be here. My name is Patrick Bolañez. I'm representing our huge team at Simply Neuroscience as our board president. Have a number of other affiliations, currently finishing my PhD in computational neuroscience at Boston University, and do quite a bit of research in educational communication and technology at New York University. And today I'm here to introduce some of the really exciting work that we do at Simply, where we focus on prioritizing early access to interdisciplinary neuroscience education. And so the model that we have in mind is that community is really important for helping folks tackle or get their teeth into neuroscience because of how interdisciplinary it actually is. And so not only, as I'll mention in a second, does that require us to bring in all of the different disciplines that touch on neuroscience, but also making sure that we have a wide reach of representation from folks, especially from the global South, from Eurasia, and of course from here in the US, where we have many of our partners. So Simply Neuroscience was founded back in 2019, and within the first 3 years, we knew we sort of hit something that was really important to the students that we work with, because right away we were able to get a whole number of social media impressions, over 1 million within the first 3 years. We're able to host a number of programming opportunities that touched over 33,000 people. And we grew, again, within those first 3 years to 25 different projects and initiatives, some of which that I'm excited to share today. Since then, we've continued to grow into a lot of different areas. We have matured as an organization and have focused on sort of sharpening our opportunities. And we're always looking for more collaboration. So if you sort of want to get involved or get in touch after this session, definitely feel free to reach out, and we'd love to chat. So as I mentioned before, we've really taken an interdisciplinary approach, and to us that means not just the traditional disciplines that will lean into neuroscience, such as biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, and mathematics, but also moving into these other fields, which we will sort of lovingly call neuro careers, ranging from neuroethics to classic systems neuroscience to neuroeconomics, nutritional neuroscience, and things along those lines. And so with all of these different lenses in mind that we try to prioritize, we sort of will create a number of opportunities throughout any particular year that enables our students to really get into touch with people who are doing work, both research and in industry within those fields, and really try to help them understand not only what is going on in that work, but as they look to the future, how do they plan to actually enter into those fields? What education is required? What opportunities would be helpful for them to chart a stable career path in those areas? And so that can take many, many different forms. So we might have something focused more on communicating popular science to people and really engaging them, such as this last year or actually maybe it was 2 years, no, it was last year in May. We had a Neuro book club on Incognito with David Eagleman, who came in. Was really exciting to have him in the room and chat with a lot of the students that we work with. Every year we tend to run Neurothon, which is a summer series where we'll have a number of workshops, invited speakers to talk about a range of different neuroscience research opportunities. A number of skills required for entering into neuroscience, serves as a great networking opportunity for them. And we also will have ongoing projects as well, such as our ongoing podcast, which has been around basically since the start of our organization, and things along those lines. When we zoom out, one thing that's really nice about our format is while we focus on community, we try to make sure that everything is accessible to people regardless of where they are. That's part of what's driven our success. So most things are virtual, and then we have the opportunity to make those things local. So our volunteers come from all around the world. The folks that will come to our events come from all around the world. And as we sort of look into the future, we hope to continue doing that, while also sort of improving and strengthening the sense of community that we offer. One other thing that I want to plug real quick that's really exciting about this next year. Over the last couple of years, we've had this 1,000 opportunities database where there are no shortage of opportunities for folks to get into neuroscience research, into internships that touch on neuroscience or psychology, but oftentimes it's very difficult to sort of consolidate all of that information. So something that we've been trying to do, and we'll be doing again this year, is trying to get all of those opportunities in one place so people can easily find all of that information, understand what's required to apply, when to apply, and things along those lines. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for folks to start charting out that area of the professional work. We also have a number of other resource databases that are hosted on our website, ranging from cognitive neuroscience to systems neuroscience, where it'll give you information on free classes that you can go ahead and take online, or different books or papers to read to get started on a particular topic. And those things are always being added onto from our organization over time. So I think one other thing that I want to highlight just while we're here is while we have these smaller sort of one-off events and these ongoing projects that people can participate in, every once in a while we'll also partner with many other organizations to put on much larger events that will solve a particular problem. So this last year we were focusing on Neuro November convention, which was very successful. The idea behind it was many people have a difficult time coming to present their research, say at venues like Society for Neuroscience, because of visa issues, the cost of attendance, and whatnot. And so at the same time, we wanted to offer a virtual venue for people to come in, engage in networking, present their research, engage with workshops, but do so in a way that didn't have those barriers in their way. And so, if there's anyone out there who is coming to this and is excited to partner with us in the future for other events like this or spin-offs of it, definitely feel free to reach out. We'd be excited to chat about it. Another thing that we're doing right now, especially in one of the departments that I oversee, which is called the Brain Resource Creation, is we're really keeping an eye on a change in neuroscience where even the most sort of biological or wet lab fields tend to have an emphasis on or need for computational literacy. And so what we're trying to do is not only consolidate resources for how to learn particular skills that are relevant to neuroscience, but we're also building tools and resources that will actually take students through the information that they need. So one thing we're doing right now is building a set of tutorials for really cool core ideas in neuroscience. So what you're looking at here is a dynamical system that basically will walk people through how to think about an action potential. It's the famous Hodgkin-Huxley model, but we'll sort of introduce students when they're ready to different levels of mathematics without sort of assuming that they have all that knowledge coming in. So we're constantly trying to move in a direction where we can have people enter into a particular space in neuroscience, get them the resources that they need, find a sense of centralized community, and then allow them to grow in that space over the years. So our long-term vision, as I mentioned, is continuing with our virtual work, but also emphasizing the fact that for many people, community is local. And so we want to support as many opportunities as we can to bring people together in person, and then again, zoom back out into the global community. We're going to continue centralizing our resource hubs, not only with the things that we are already focusing on, but also partnering with other organizations who have resources that they want to share, or with folks who want to collaborate to make sure we don't sort of have a desk drawer problem in the larger outreach space. And as the organization continues to grow, we want to keep strengthening our intergenerational alumni community to provide ongoing mentorship for folks who are coming into the organization and for folks who will touch our programs. If you are interested in getting involved, especially for any of the students who are here, as I mentioned at the start, we are a by student for student organization. So definitely reach out, volunteer, try to get involved. And we'd love to, get working with you and continue moving these initiatives forward. So just wanted to, again, thank everyone for the opportunity to be here, share a little bit about our organization. And I know we're coming up on time, so I'd love to get into the Q&A, but really great to see everyone coming out today.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing your important work and insights from Simply Neuroscience. Now I'd love to open things up to the questions from our audience. Please remember to submit your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll do our best to get to as many questions as we can. So to our panelists, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start a neuroscience outreach program in their community?
Do it.
I like that.
Just literally start. I mean, if you wait around for permission or for, resources, et cetera, especially if you're at like an institution, like, university or something like that, they're not necessarily very fast moving or responsive, actually. And they don't necessarily know what it is you're even trying to do. Or if they get involved, it can become more complex, and there are all these hoops you jump through and approvals, etc. So really, the best thing is to just go places and start talking and start listening, to what people have questions about. And that has been our experience, and it's grown and grown and grown and grown because of that.
Love it. I do like that answer. Just do it. That's one of my favorites. Here's a question someone typed in. Would there be any bridge programs or courses that one could take up to officially enter into the field of neuroscience? This person's coming from computer science background, an MBA in marketing, and want to make my niche in neuromarketing.
Yeah, well, I think maybe this is a cop out at the start, but it's important to sort of make a distinction between what you mean by neuromarketing. So there's more of a neuroscience side of neuromarketing, and then there's more of a psychology side of things. On the more neuroscience side, you might think of things like eye tracking or focusing on pupil size, how that changes as a function of stimuli you put in front of folks. You might have biosensors such as like focusing on heart rate. There's been more interesting work recently focused on bringing in fMRI and EEG for looking at the brain more dynamically and how we do those things. Then there's the more traditional psychology side of things, which would probably pull more from behavioral economics as a traditional field. From that first distinction, I would also probably say would you want to focus more on product development or more as a researcher? So there are a lot of folks who have gone on, gotten their master's and their PhD, and they currently do that work either, as an arm of a larger organization, or I know some folks here at Boston University will do that, versus someone who might be more, product oriented and might not do as much of the research. So I think in both of those cases, the actual recommendation for a course or certificate or degree would be different. Where if you were going more on sort of like the traditional research side, you would probably need an additional advanced degree that would put you in touch with a research center for EEG, fMRI, and things along those lines. Whereas, to a large extent, you might be able to find any number of firms who would love your background in computer science and an MBA, and you might be able to jump right into it just by sort of being in touch with the literature and things along those lines. So I'm not sure if anyone else wants to add to that, but.
Thanks, Patrick. Another question, how can patient advocacy organizations and young scientists collaborate more effectively?
I'd say, people are always welcome to join us for outreach. So one of the things we do is when we go to schools, et cetera, we put up an announcement about where we're going, and we just want to know who you are before you show up and things like that. But generally, we invite like a lot of community members and stuff like that. It's a great way to kind of connect patient advocacy organizations. We've had folks from, some definitely people who are doing research, for example, on Alzheimer's or on other aspects of brain function, come into public schools and listen to the questions that kids have, or come into correctional facilities and listen to the questions that the kids have there. So yeah, so I mean, just get in touch and come join us. We've actually, Jeff, right? We went once with the local Alzheimer's Association. We did like one of their events here, like the longest day or something like that. We participated and brought brains and art projects so people can learn more about what's happening in the brain in neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I would
thank
add,
you.
I would
Okay.
add from the IBB very quickly that if folks we get inquiries from our Instagram, from Facebook, our website when we go to different conferences and have posters, and so we try to put people in touch with coordinators that are in their area or in their in their country, and then when we find a country that has interest, we try to help recruit a coordinator at a local university or with the Society for Neuroscience in that country to try to get them to sponsor a chapter. And the last thing I'll say is that we are actually starting a virtual chapter for students in countries that don't have a brain bee, so that they could compete as kind of that independent without being affiliated with the country until they can get one up and going.
Wonderful. Thank you to everybody again for participating. So as we close, I want to sincerely thank our incredible speakers and featured programs for the work that you're doing to inspire the future of neuroscience. You've given us so much to think about and act on. And for anyone interested in learning more about the organizations that have participated today, please check out their websites listed on this slide. And as well, if there are any other questions, we will answer those offline if anyone else is adding them in. We just want to stay true to our time slot. So thank you all for joining us today. Happy Brain Aneurysm, plug for myself, Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month of September. It just rolls off my tongue. Happy Brain Awareness Week, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.